Hey, Mimis, welcome back to the Elijah Diaries, our little kiki corner of the internet, where for the past 4 weeks we have been analyzing queer films and dissecting the psychological themes that lie beneath the surface. Though this video is coming a little bit earlier in the week than others, I really wanted to honor my intention of delivering you guys an analysis every single week of Pride Month, and I honestly think that the docudrama we're going over today beautifully wraps up our series for now. So without further ado, make sure that you like and subscribe to support me, and I hope you enjoy our discussion of our film of the week, The Watermelon Woman.
What? Child. Anyway, so
DJ, cue my music.
Make me your girl, your girl. If it's something that you need, then baby, come and share my world. Share my world. If it's something that you want, come and take a walk with me, with me. Everything that you need, I got it right here, baby.
Some films ask us to remember forgotten people. Others ask us to question the way we remember them in the first place. Released in 1996, Cheryl Dunye's The Watermelon Woman follows a characterized version of Cheryl, in which she plays a young black lesbian filmmaker determined to uncover the life of a forgotten black actress known to her only as the Watermelon Woman. What begins as an archival search slowly evolves into something much more complicated. Every interview, photograph, and recollection reveals less about who Faye Richards truly was and more about the projections people inevitably bring to the act of remembering. By the film's end, I found myself asking a question far bigger than the documentary itself. Can we ever tell someone's story without unconsciously inserting ourselves into it? And who gets to tell history? Hollywood did not remember Faye Richards as a person. It remembered her in the background as a stereotype, a trope, the watermelon woman. A nameless mammy figure whose public-facing identity became inseparable from one degrading role in a white-made film. Throughout history, countless black performers were reduced to caricatures rather than remembered as complete human beings. Their ambitions, relationships, artistry, and individuality were swallowed by the roles they were permitted to play. Cheryl begins her project with the intent to combat that erasure. Rather than accepting the industry's version of Faye, Cheryl sets out to recover the real woman behind the image. It is an incredibly beautiful premise because if history refuses to thoughtfully preserve someone, then honestly, perhaps artists have a responsibility to try. As Cheryl's research deepens, another story slowly begins competing with her pursuit of Faye's, Cheryl's very own. From her budding interracial relationship with Diana, her fascination with the relationship that Faye had with filmmaker Martha Page, which Cheryl began to believe mirrored the one she shared with Diana, her outsourcing frustrations on her best friend Tamara, who was her greatest champion through the film, down to shifting focus completely onto her own desires. Again and again, I found myself wanting to know more about Faye, while the film continued redirecting my attention elsewhere. Initially, that frustrated me, but by the film's conclusion, I realized perhaps that frustration was the point. Every historian, filmmaker, biographer, and documentarian brings their own personal biases into the stories they tell. Complete objectivity may be impossible. The question then becomes whether we recognize those biases before they quietly become the story itself. One of the documentary's most powerful moments comes from the woman we learn to be Faye's lover of 20 years, Miss June, in her passionately worded letter to Cheryl. Rather than celebrating Cheryl's fascination and relentless search into the filmmaker Martha Page, Mrs. June challenges it. Why should a white woman's name continue occupying so much space in Faye's story, solely because they appear to have shared a special bond? Watching Cheryl's pursuit led me to a similar question: why proximity to whiteness became the defining lens through which we understood a black woman's life. That question really lingered with me long after the credits rolled, because Faye loved, Faye sang, Faye performed. She had dreams of becoming a Hollywood star. She built relationships and lived an entire life. Yet, so much of the discussion surrounding her, especially that which Cheryl gives importance to, becomes filtered through her connection to the white filmmaker Martha, who gave her this watermelon woman role. At what point does remembering someone slowly become a complete reimagination of them? Watching the film made me think about something much larger than Faye Richards alone. History is rarely preserved by the people living it, it is preserved by those who survived long enough to tell it. Every storyteller chooses where to point the camera, every editor decides what remains in the final cut, every historian determines what deserves another photograph. But none of those decisions are neutral. And as artists, we carry an enormous amount of responsibility, not simply to tell stories, but to ask ourselves whose stories are we actually telling? Growing up in search of Black queer representation, I never really saw myself reflected in the media. I saw facets of my artistic ambitions and creative voice in icons like Michael Jackson, Beyonce, Tyler Perry, Oprah, among so many others, who use their voices to tell stories and cultivate communities. And it wasn't really until my preteen years when I first saw the epic series Pose, which I spoke about in our last video. If you haven't seen it, go check that out. But I truly felt I had a bevy of characters through which I could see my vulnerability, my fears, my desires, my flamboyance, all in one medium about the world of ballroom. This show, and the way it gave a young baby gay Elijah the warm embrace and encouragement to know I could reach beyond my lowest days, is a memory that will always stick with me and truly the kind of effect I hope to curate for others through telling stories with care and raw honesty. Like Cheryl and Faye, I understand the experience of having my public facing value and self perception defined by my proximity to whiteness. I also understand that as Black queer people, for many of us, our earliest traumas with queer bashing come from our very own Black community. In the home, within the greater family, or even in public, those experiences stick with young people who base their identities and sense of safety on the rooms in which they're able to let their guard down at the highest capacity. For me personally, I learned to find that safety in white space because where my sexuality at the time was only speculatory, and some would say that closet was made of glass. But on the other hand, I can never hide my skin color. So having gotten used to the microaggressions from white people on the basis of my race, it felt much more survivable than having to confront my gay identity in the company of people who look just like me and I presumed I should be just like. I didn't fully debunk this ideology until I entered high school at the height of the Black Lives Matter movement, when again my identity felt conflicting with the space I was occupying. But conversely, this time it was my racial experience put into question, and from that point on, I no longer allowed either facet of myself to dictate the rooms I avoided. Instead, I began choosing to bring them in every room. With my lived experiences, rather than asking whether Cheryl was wrong or right for her focus on Faye's proximity to whiteness as it related to her own proximity to whiteness through her relationship with Diana, I ask instead, how often do our own experiences quietly determine what captures our attention before we're even aware of it? The film closes by revealing that Faye Richards herself is a fictional character created solely for the purpose of this story. But ironically, that revelation strengthens rather than weakens the documentary's message because The Watermelon Woman was never truly asking us to recover one forgotten actress. It was asking us to think about all the real people whose stories we've never preserved with the same care. History is never simply discovered, it is assembled, edited, interpreted, sometimes distorted, but also sometimes reclaimed. Throughout Pride Month, I found myself returning to the same question in different forms. Who are we beneath the labels placed upon us? Call Me By Your Name asked whether we love people or our idea of them. Moonlight asked what it costs to truly be seen. I Saw the TV Glow explored what happens when we abandon ourselves to survive. Paris's Burning examined how communities create value when the world refuses to offer it. And The Watermelon Woman asks perhaps the most difficult question of all: can we ever remember someone without projecting ourselves onto them? As artists, historians, and even people moving through everyday relationships, I don't know if perfect objectivity is possible, but what I do believe is possible is humility. The willingness to admit that every story we tell reveals something not only about its subject, but about its storyteller. And perhaps the greatest act of remembrance is allowing someone to remain as wonderfully complicated as they were while they were alive. Not the version we wish they had been, not the version that best reflects us, but the fullest version that we can honestly find. All right, Mimis, thank you so much for sticking through this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out a lot. And before I let you go, I want to say happy Pride Month. Yeah, we're in like the last 3 days as I'm recording, two probably as this is uploaded. I'm recording this Sunday, June 28th, uploading it hopefully the 29th for y'all. I'm gonna hold myself to that now. But remember to love on yourself and others, but most especially yourself, and to continue practicing curiosity every day you're graced with life on earth. Curiosity about yourself, curiosity about others, curiosity about the world around you, and the willingness to not take everything at face value, to learn, expand, adapt expectations, and seek truth. I love you so much, Mimis. And if you haven't heard enough already, you're beautiful, you're wonderful, you're intelligent, and you're exactly where you're supposed to be at the exact time you're supposed to be. I love you guys so much. Thank you for sticking through the series. If you have, and if you haven't gotten to watch them all, go revisit them all. The playlist is somewhere on the screen, probably right here, and previous video right here. Love you so much. I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now, Mimis.